of Jubilee, and there's a lot happening. Let me begin with Gabriel. What do you make of what is happening in Jubilee? Sabina Chege was installed as the new party leader, overthrowing, taking over from the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. But of course, you still have the Jeremiah Kioni team insisting that they are the legitimate officials of Jubilee. What do you think is happening?
Zainab, first of all, and this may sound a little bit edgy, it's unfortunate what is happening to a once respectable, highly regarded party or coalition like Jubilee. We all thought at one point that Jubilee was going to be the party of the future. Now, where I see them going, I can equate it to what we saw back in the 90s with Ford, where you had a splitter with Ford Kenya, and others went to Ford Asili. I think I see such an occurrence happening in Jubilee. But given their woes, I think, and I see the only person here who I know is going to take a hit more than the likes of Kadindikega and Akina Kioni is the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. And it's so unfortunate.
How so?
First of all, I think not only myself, but most people that have been able to engage with, they don't see the reason as to why the former president should be entangling himself with issues of a party. I think he has served his term as president, which I think that is one of the highest, the tallest order Kenyans can give to you. Now, all of a sudden, the same president who is a respected member of society, having been a former president with such great trappings of power, is in the streets with a ghetto president called Gaucho shouting haki yetu. It doesn't make sense. He should actually not degrade himself to such levels. What I believe he should have done, he should have washed his hands and exited Jubilee and left it where it was. He has served as a party leader of Jubilee. It did not go well his way. You're talking about a party that had a near majority in parliament and the Senate. They led nearly in numbers in nearly all the leadership positions. Whether you look at them from the county assemblies to the governor's chair of government, they had everything going for them.
So
today, the same party, Jubilee, has nearly only 28 members in the National Assembly.
Isn't this just a political takeover of a party that...
If you're talking about a party that had succeeded, a party that made government, that can be understood. People can understand. But here you're trying to fight with members who are so junior to you at one point. And the process that you're initiating for a takeover, people are asking, for what, then what? Where is this party? Where is this party headed? Where is Jubilee headed? And I think that is what you saw back when he was the head of state. No NEC meeting was called. There was no meeting that addressed the issues that were being raised by members of Jubilee. Only now you want to come back and be the leader of Jubilee, and many, actually...
But he is the party leader. He has been the party leader, right?
He has been, but again, you go to the retirement benefits of a president. What do they stipulate? Would you actually still fight for Jubilee at the expense of you retiring peacefully, getting your benefits as president, and just calling it a day? There are so many things the president, he already has his plate full with the kind of work he's doing across our region. That, to me, should be a place where I impact or I put more emphasis. Not to run, really, to be fighting with junior members of a party that you were a leader at one point.
Okay, let's hear from Nudin, then we're going to get Hesbond and Arnold on this.
Zainab, you know, the interesting thing about Jubilee is that what people are not talking about is, one, the political parties fund that Jubilee gets. Number two, there is a lot of power play in that there's payback. For those who feel that they were chased out of that party, they would want either to take that party back, swallow it, or dismantle it. And number three, remember that party, as he rightfully said, was a behemoth. It was a big party with a lot of members. So someone might want to take it and rebrand it as well. So it's more or less, there's a lot of power play. There's a lot of flexing of muscles. But now, I have seen, and there's someone who has gone to court, courtesy of the actions of the former president who appeared the other day at the headquarters. Some might see, or rather like he rightfully said, as for him, he doesn't understand what he'd be doing with Gaucho. But you fail to understand that in as much as we quote the Retirement Benefits Act, there's something people forget, that is Article 38 of the Constitution. That is what we call political rights. And retirement does not mean you cannot participate in any political right that you have. One, a political right is like voting. So he retired, he doesn't vote. So he retired, he cannot be a party member. So he retired, he cannot participate in party activities. And that is why I'm saying it's going to be interesting, because the matter is live in court. Because the same article says that any citizen has political rights, like I mentioned, to vote, to be a member of a political party, to participate in
but what does the law state with regard to, you know, a former president enjoying his pension payments with regard, or, you know, with regard to him being actively, you know, in politics? Is he supposed to, you know, step aside from active politics? The
reason why I'm saying it's going to be interesting, and not to give a legal opinion to whoever will defend him in court, is that I quoted the Article 38, all right? Now, when you look at the Retirement Benefits Act, it says it should not be a leader of a party 6 months after handing over power. So that means if you look at the Retirement Benefits Act, he shouldn't be the party leader. All right. That's why I'm saying I'm not giving a legal opinion to his counsel, whoever it's going to be. Because at the end of the day, we wait for the court to determine whether he can still act as the party leader. Because for him, he feels clearly from his actions, he feels that he has the right to still remain a party leader. Because for some of them who support him, they insinuate the fact that Raila Odinga is former prime minister, enjoying retirement perks, and still party leader of ODM. Kalonzo Musyoka is a former vice president and still enjoying the perks, and is still a party leader of Wiper. And that's why I'm saying it's going to be an interesting day in court to see what each party puts before the court, and the court makes a decision. Yes. Interesting.
Arnold, so a lot is happening. Jubilee Party. It appears it's the... Is this flower, is this space that, you know, that's creating quite a division across the political divide?
Well, I actually was hoping that initially you would given direction that Hezbollah.
Yes, then I get to Hezbollah.
Well,
let me hear from you first.
You came around here. So anyway, that aside, the fight in Jubilee is much more than just the fight for the leadership. Let's home this clearly, that number one, in the spirit of sportsmanship, President Uhuru Kenyatta, as the leader, the team leader of Jubilee, when they lost last year, to the point where even his MP and I think his MCA went to the other team. In other countries, the truth is that he would actually have stepped down, because he let down his team. But of course, like he said, he has got his Article 38 rights. But now, let's come home. The problem with Jubilee at the moment is not so much about the party, but about Mount Kenya. What we see here is a situation where Mount Kenya is wrestling among, or rather, there is a war within Mount Kenya on who is, quote unquote, we are a country that is obsessed with having kingpins and leaders of regions. And so for the first time, there are two bulls in the ring, that is the Mount Kenya kraal. There is the deputy president, a sitting deputy president, and a former president who has refused to call it quit or just go home the way Kibaki did. So I'd really love to see a situation where former President Uhuru Kenyatta is fighting Sabina Chege. As in, you understand it clearly when it is Kanini Kega fighting with Jeremiah Kioni. They almost look like their peers, no problem. But then the former president fighting that girl from Muranga, as in there is everything wrong with it. Whoever advises him, and of course the president has got his Article 38 rights, he can associate. In fact, to the extent that Article 38 remains the superior authority, then it means that the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act, that particular provision that he should not be a member of a party or whatever, of course, would definitely come off as unconstitutional. So, free, fair, and okay on that. But then the real gameplay here is to try see President Uhuru Kenyatta fighting Sabina Chege on the other side for the position of a party leader. The whole idea here is that there is a feeling in Mount Kenya that in that particular backyard, the issue of who is the leader has not been settled. So that war has just moved into Jubilee, but then it's a bigger war that is beyond the party as it were.
Right.
So where do we go from here? If you get to a place as a former president where Kanini Kega is cancelling your meeting, okay, even if it's cancelled in courts, that's everything around that particular issue is wrong. That's why I think the president should, out of the respect and the legacy of what he has done, he actually needs to divorce himself from this mess, because
do you think the former president is at a disadvantaged position by the fact that, first of all, it is a majority of the members within the Jubilee party who are already siding with this other side, you know, the Kanini Kega side?
He should actually allow the party to chart a new way. Like I said, he was the leader of the nation then, and also the leader of the Jubilee party when they lost so badly. A number of people in Jubilee who ran in central Kenya, they knew that with him as president and the leader of Jubilee, he actually was going to shield them against the UDA wave. He did not. So if he sticks around there, a number of them, you know, when you see people like Ngunjiri Wambogo, for example, now, Uhuru diehard now coming out and actually saying it's time he actually left the party to chart a new way forward. It's a conversation that Uhuru actually, or rather whoever is advising him or whoever is dragging him into this, because I think the former president is busy doing other things. Somebody somewhere is really keen on using him as a shield to keep on dragging him. You know, I think it's Tony Blair who said, I don't know whether it's Tony Blair or John Major who said that it's important to leave so early. In political spaces, it's important to leave so early until people ask, why are you leaving? As opposed to stay for so long until the question becomes, when will you leave? So for Uhuru, it is in his interest to move away from this. You know, when you see the former head of state now moving around with Gausha, not that Gausha is any less of a human being, but then there's just the way. Would you think of Kibaki doing that?
Isn't this a matter of respect, a matter of, this is my party? Wouldn't it hurt, you know, his position as a political leader who pioneered this political party that will now be overtaken?
You see,
he is removed.
Ordinarily, Uhuru is one politician I thought that for a long time he was underrated. And he actually proved us right that he actually had been underrated. The way he played around, how he ended up as president. Look at the book by Duale, for example. See the moves that Uhuru made. So Uhuru is one politician that for a long time will come off as underrated. And he proved us to that particular end. But I feel the way he's handling the Jubilee fight, he's coming off too ordinary. He's swallowing all baits. And this is, he can actually play. He's a chess master we've seen in the field. He can actually do much better than show up to support. You know, as Uhuru Kenyatta, if you have to show up in person to defend your quote-unquote your SG, there is definitely a show of having blade power. You actually have lost power. So I think it's in his interest to actually just move away and play this game from afar, because he's now fighting with the younger people. And then I'm just trying to say this. Uhuru Kenyatta versus Sabina Chege. I don't know how you look at that. It's not just right. It's not something the former president really wants to engage in. He should move away from this. Remember Kibaki, and as much as a few people, characters within Kibaki's party then, really tried to have him staying for a very long time as a party leader, he kept off completely. It went to court for a very long time and push and pull like this. The former president should move on. He has got so many things to do, including even starting a new party, which will still have the same influence if he really wants to become a leader of a political party. But this one here, where Uhuru Kenyatta, the son of Ngina, is fighting Sabina Chege on the other side, that is a tad too low a bridge for him to cross.
Hesbon, I see you're laughing. What, you don't agree with that?
I totally don't agree with that. I think we are reducing this to something that it is not when we say that President Uhuru Kenyatta is fighting Sabina Chege. You know. But let us just go back to a bit of history of some of these leaders who are now claiming Jubilee leadership. One is that these are people who took a position. They decided to support President Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, and Azimio.
And they did that believing that, you know, that was the best direction for this country. But immediately it became clear that William Ruto is the president of this country. They jumped ship. And it tells you a lot about these leaders, you know, that it was not really about the people that they represent or the party that they believed in. It was just about themselves. Because if you ask me, they're not laying claim on Jubilee for the interest of the Jubilee members or the constituencies that they represent. And this is the wider Mount Kenya region. They're actually doing this for themselves. You know, and it is unfortunate that we have that kind of leadership, you know, perpetuating the politics of deceit in this country. That 6 months ago you believed in something, and then today you strongly believe in something totally different without any clear rationale to that change in position. And you know, it has been attributed to a journey to make this country, you know, a one-party state. You know, and there are so many indications to that. Now, ask yourself, why would President Uhuru Kenyatta come out to defend Jubilee? He's not coming out because he entertains fighting the likes of Sabina Chege or Kanini Kega. No, this is not a fight about Jubilee, you know. And it is not even a question of President Uhuru Kenyatta coming against this individual. It is becoming increasingly clear that it is not Kenyatta against these political leaders. It is Kenyatta against a powerful force. And it is anyone's guess who that powerful force is. And we cannot run away from the fact that this is not a fight to take over Jubilee because of resources. This is actually something that gets to the heart and soul of multi-party democracy. And we can't run away from that. That you have a situation where Kanini Kega calls for a NEC meeting without any Jubilee constitutional backing to it, and we want to entertain that. How does it make sense? Then the party leader, I mean, the way to convene Jubilee NEC meetings and NDC is enshrined in their constitution, and it can only be done by the Secretary General or the party leader. Now, who is Kanini Kega? Who is Sabina Chege? Within the presence of their legal instrument. Let me just finish. If we entertain the likes of Kanini Kega calling NDCs or cancelling NDCs, then what we are saying is that today they get away with that. Tomorrow, the renegade ODM MPs, including Jalas, Mark Nyamita, my friend, and all the other ODM MPs who have since decamped, can call NDCs and do anything that they want. That is what we are talking about. That an individual who, I mean, Kanini Kega, I think, is the director of elections in Jubilee. So the director of elections in Jubilee, who is now a renegade Jubilee member, who attends Kenya Kwanza PG meetings, and we saw him being capped with UDA caps.
But remember, he's a member of the Jubilee party.
If that is the kind of
there was a National Executive Council meeting that was held
in Naivasha.
Called by the members of the Jubilee party. I think it was the chairman, if I'm not wrong, of the party.
Yes.
And when that happened, there was this installation of new officials of the party. And this was then forwarded to the registrar of the political parties. And so, at this point, of course, it's still a bit vague. But we did speak, by the way, to the registrar of political parties when we invited David Murathe here for a conversation. What the registrar of the political parties said was that she did not ratify the change in the names. However, the officials remain, the status quo remains the same. But according to that, but she did not cancel or change that particular document that came from that National Executive Council meeting. At this point, however, by the mere fact that she did not, however, make a statement on saying that it is still, the status quo remains. So you still have Kanini Kega as, you know.
A case at the tribunal.
No, it is my time. Let me just finish.
Okay, just finish then.
If she didn't make a ruling and say that the status quo remains, what status quo? The status quo that remains is that the officials who are registered with the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties remain the bona fide officials. Meaning, any other official who purports to be a Jubilee official was not ratified by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. And therefore, they cannot call a NEC meeting. Whether you are the chairman or just a NEC member, the NEC NDC in Jubilee can only be called by two people. That is the Secretary General or the party leader. And it is in their legislation. It is in their laws, the party constitution. But let us not run away from the fact that, you know, countries are talking about how to expand their multi-party democracies.
But I want you to remember, I want you to remember why it's a bit vague is because also at that point, the registrar of the political parties, she approved, sort of, to say.
And you see, let me tell you the reason why it's a bit vague. It's a bit vague because of the powers that are involved in this. And the fact that there are certain officers that don't want to commit themselves. And therefore, they don't want to do the right thing. They're abdicating their roles, essentially. They're making the level playing field to be as absurd and as obscured as possible so that they muddle the water and bring President Uhuru Kenyatta into this. This is, let us just remember that this is not a fight between President Uhuru Kenyatta and these political leaders who stand for absolutely nothing, if you ask me. I mean, you can't be an elected leader in Jubilee, a nominated member of parliament in Jubilee, and you're attending Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meetings. Okay. But let me just say this. You know, this from my own political interpretation, this is not even a question of dealing with one political party. One, it's a question of dealing with so many political parties. It will be Jubilee. If they succeed with Jubilee, they'll go for another political party. One of these fine days, you'll find some of those renegade MPs in other political parties calling for such meetings. And then number two, this is just a ploy to ensure that there is no channel for political determination for Mount Kenya region. I can tell you, building a political party, even a political party that has 28 elected members of parliament, is not something that is very easy. And if leaders in Mount Kenya are sharp enough, they need to realize that a dead Jubilee simply means that they are in UDA, and UDA can do anything UDA would want to do with them. And that simply means that going forward, they will not have a vehicle to champion their cause. And we've already had conversations of them talking about one man, one vote, one shilling. And they're making statements that without a political party would end up nowhere. Within UDA, anyone who would be having a dissenting voice would be dealt with, just within UDA. And another person who is willing to subscribe to the UDA ideas and probably get the gravy train going would replace them. Okay. The tragedy of that is that come 2027, they will have nowhere to fall. And you see, the deputy president needs to realize that he's not a William Ruto. He doesn't have the gravitas to build a political party like William Ruto did. And
that's passing on a judgment on, you know, the political influence of the
deputy president, based on the political terrain. I think that's why I was called here. That it is impossible to form a political party to get to the point where Jubilee is. And the moment they finish with Jubilee, they will find themselves without a vehicle that will determine the course of the people of Mount Kenya region.
Look, Arnold, I know you want to say something, and of course Nurdin as well. Please allow me to take a very short break, because when you come back, we're getting your responses on those particular issues that Hezbollah Owila has raised. I see that you've touched some nerve, Hezbollah. All right, let's take a quick